except a good
Two worlds now.
What?
Two worlds now.
Two worlds now, yes.
Like you don't have enough work with one.
Yeah.
So how are you guys finding a way to? Have you figured out a way to try to maintain the balance?
Yeah.
Why do you work more on one versus the other?
Well, we were very lucky that we had Zach Estrin, who is a partner and co-creator of Wonderland, has been really great. And so what we do is we're able to just kind of, the job has become a lifestyle. We just live in it. But for us, we're just so grateful because it's fantastic to wake up every day and get to spend a morning in Neverland and an afternoon in Wonderland, and to know that that's your job. So, really we just attack it, and we spend as much time as we can on both of them, and really we do the same jobs on both. It just means that we don't go home before midnight.
I mean, we got two writers' rooms side by side, and we go back and forth, and we have, I think we have truly the most talented writers in the business working on both shows.
And they make it easy because when you have great people working, we get all the credit, but they really do a lot of the heavy lifting with us, and so they make it easier for us because you don't have to. It's not like we have to come up with every idea. We just take credit for every idea.
How have you guys decided to kind of do the balance of separation between the worlds? There's obviously a little bit of some characters making an appearance in Wonderland and such.
We never wanted to do a real spin-off like, hey, you know what, the Drummonds are dropping Mrs. Garrett off at the boarding school, and, Willis will come back. But we wanted, we love the idea of Wonderland, and we love the idea of Alice, and we wanted to just tell like a short story. Our whole idea was just we wanted to do a really self-contained, limited number of episodes, like a movie, and tell it. So that was our goal for Wonderland, and then that made it for us because we knew creatively here was our beginning and here was our end, and then we'll just work on that and not worry about like how do I stretch this idea for 5 years.
Right.
And so that's, if we had to do that again, we would be dead.
So we've got Wonderland, Neverland, and the Enchanted Forest,
yes.
Which is all Disney properties, obviously. So we're living inside this universe. Is there any possibility of us getting like a Emperor's New Groove, Hercules, Atlantis mythology?
We've done King Arthur. It's funny because when we came up with the idea, we knew that a lot of these were public domain, and so obviously we were lucky that we got to go with Disney. But it's funny because sometimes people I'll read, they'll be like, oh, this is Disney's trying to sell stuff, and the truth is we snuck in, grabbed all these toys on the shelf, and they caught us playing in the living room, and then it was too late. And that's what it was. It was like, wait a minute, why isn't anyone writing Snow White? Why isn't anyone writing the Mad Hatter? What do you mean? It's public domain? We're doing it, and then Disney...
Yeah, these are characters that we grew up loving, and we wanted to tell stories with, and we happened to, be able to get Disney on board to do the show, and since then, they've been incredibly generous in letting us use the toys on their shelf, and there are more toys we're eyeing, or what we would
listen, at a certain point, once we added an eighth dwarf and killed it, Disney was like, all right, go with God.
Well, have you ever thought about like sort of reverse engineering this, like coming up with something that's public domain that Disney hasn't done yet, and then have them say like, well, we might want to do a movie about that, let's talk.
We never really think about it in those business terms. You think about it creatively. So for us, like last year when we brought in Lancelot, it was, we loved the idea of a fallen soldier that was now a mercenary. And, what happened? Well, he teased, a woman. And so, and it really, we try to approach it from a creative standpoint because other than that, if you try to go, oh, well, this might make a good property for another part of Disney, that's not our job. Those are and that's why we're not executives. We're the two idiots that go, hey, wouldn't it be cool if there was an eighth dwarf and we killed it?
Asked Jennifer this, and she said to ask you guys because you would probably know more. What is like 24 hours as a peasant in the Enchanted Forest? Like, what is it like for these people that just have to live?
Well,
it varies.
It depends what kingdom you're in. If you're in Regina's and she's the queen, you may find yourself burnt.
But then why don't you just migrate? Like,
I think some of them do. Some try, and then some.
Well, I think everyone is in their own story. So we may not tell you about Cobbler number 2, but Cobbler number 2 has his own life and his own family, and it's like, I'm from Minnesota, and I remember in winter, like, why are we here? And my parents were like, what do you mean, why are we here? This is where we're from. So, they have a life and an attachment. It's just unfortunately for them, we don't show it.
Now, since you have Wonderland kind of planned out, what about Neverland? Is that pretty structured, what this season is going to be?
Yeah, I mean, we, in between seasons, and, this was, we got this from Damon and Carlton when we were on Lost, we would do mini camp. So between each season of Lost, we would spend 3 weeks plotting out what we're going to do in the next season. So last year we knew we were building towards Neverland, which is why we introduced Greg and Tamara, which was why there was an episode where we're like, what is this home office? And then at the end you realize the home office was Peter Pan, which set us up. So for us, we know that these 11 episodes is the Neverland tale. And so this year we're approaching it like 2 seasons. Season 1 is Neverland, and Season 2, we'll give you a hint in episode 11.
You'll definitely taken, a different route with Peter Pan. What I found here is right now mostly we're being told how bad he is.
Yeah.
Like Hook even called him a demon. Are we going to get to see more?
Yes, I think, just by virtue of what he did to Emma. Yeah. And he said to her, this map will tell you who you are. And he basically said, all the growth you thought you made, you didn't. And I just called you on it. And by the way, your parents are going to be orphans. And we see that Prince Charming is dying. So he's pretty scary to me. Like, he's already starting playing hardball. But it's only going to get meaner.
But I think that we're going to see his relationship, particularly with in the past with Rumple, very soon. And so, when we saw him at the end of season 2, Rumple was saying this is the one guy you should fear. I think we're going to start to get a real taste of why.
And we're going to find out what would make him want to be young forever.
Another thing that was really interesting, and speaking of Rumpelstiltskin, watching his story in the beginning, and you're actually divorcing yourself from the fact that he is Rumpelstiltskin.
Yeah.
It's actually a solid dramatic story, and his motivations are you can sympathize with.
Well, and that was the goal, which was to take, Rumpelstiltskin as a character, that was a case of using a character as a jumping off point to kind of create this new character on our show. And, Robert Carlyle is brilliant, first of all, and so he takes it to another level.
We wrote this for him.
Right.
We literally were fans of his and wrote this for him and Skyped with him in Glasgow to beg him to come to our show.
So, and when, with an actor of that caliber or the caliber of any of the actors that we've been able to get, it really forces you to try to dig deep. And with Rumpelstiltskin, we really tried to kind of create a very
emotional,
but also like an epic, like mythological tale, but that's really grounded in some really relatable emotions.
We don't want villains to be evil for evil's sake because it's just not interesting to write someone that's like, I want power. You want power because you want to prove something to someone. You love someone. You lost something. And that to us, as we said in season 1, evil is not born, it's made.
We had the home office in season 2, which was a ruse, but the idea that they thought they were operating under was to destroy all magic in the universe, which implies that there are some humans that understand that magic is a thing, but there would be huge groups of humans, like at Comic-Con, that would rather use magic, like harness it to become wizards. Like, is that a thing that we might ever get into?
That what Peter Pan was trying to do was, as he said, in the premiere, it's easier to get someone to hate something than to believe in it, and that's what he was trying to find in our world in order to achieve his goals, which you'll very soon find out what those are.
Yeah, Greg and Tamara, unfortunately, were fanatics that were recruited. Greg, of course, believes magic destroyed his father, which, to be honest, it did. And what Peter Pan said was really, it's the difference between cynicism and belief. It is so much easier to get 10,000 people to go march about something they hate. It's so much easier to get on the internet and talk about all the things you hate than actually say, my wife does this and I love her for it. My wife actually will be on a plane, and if there is someone that did something really nice, she'll write the airline and say, I just want to let you know that this person did a great thing. And so I'm always inspired by her optimism.
I think they're stealing you away.
Oh, thank you guys. It was nice to see you.